I also am a fan of the 1.5 speed. I do have to do it on headphones because it drives my partner nuts.
Yes.
Like, we'll
Yes.
fully walk out of the room if I try and listen to it with them
Mhm.
nearby.
That is
Um,
a side effect.
right? Exactly. Going into our general news, Microsoft Teams remote code execution vulnerability let attackers read, write, and delete messages. So there was a critical RCE in Teams collaboration software that could allow attackers to read, write, delete messages and data through a heap-based buffer overflow. That has a CVSS score of 7.5. And it does require multiple steps. It's a pretty complex attack that does require user interaction. But Microsoft did release a fix for it as part of its Patch Tuesday updates. There aren't exploit examples not well known publicly yet. Microsoft has noted in their own advisory that exploits are less likely because this requires complex attack chain. We'll share those advisory details. Mitigation is just to, hopefully, as you usually are doing, applying the Patch Tuesday updates. And I think that we saw another issue with Zoom earlier in today's episode. Now we're talking about Teams. Tools like Teams have a lot of the same challenges in terms of user-focused attacks as email channels, with the kind of added challenge that those chat and video channels are usually the more primary methods of rapidly communicating, especially like during the workday. So, like we always like to do when we look at these headlines and we try and give folks opportunities to have their plans in place, know how they would respond if an incident were to occur. What are some tactics? What are some communication tactics teams can consider to make sure that they have a backup plan when the fastest way to communicate change is the thing that needs to be worked around?
This is my probably weekly reminder now to tabletop things like this. Like actually try and like think about what you're gonna do. This is kind of like a fire evacuation plan. Like you got to know about it, and if you just tell everybody go meet in the parking lot and you do that before the fire happens, it's gonna be pretty successful. It's gonna be even more successful. You can do like fire drills and actually like have see people doing it, and then even when you're doing those fire drills you can kind of understand like maybe there's some gaps, maybe there's some people that aren't being communicated to properly, maybe you didn't communicate the right parking lot. That's the whole reason why you want to do like tabletops for this kind of stuff. Like have that communication, have that discussion between your team, and think about like you don't want to make this tabletop easy for yourself either. You want to make it hard. You want to try and find those gaps. You want to consider like, hey, we've got this tabletop plan where communication teams goes down. We go into a war room and then all the managers cascade the information down to their people from there. But like, what happens if a manager isn't around? Like, who's the next up to fill that person's spot? So like, try to think about like those gaps and like make the tabletops like harder and harder. Like, try it the first time. Maybe you can do like ease mode for yourself at first just to get things like get people in the right state of mind. But after that, continuously try to think like, what are some like holes that I might be able to punch in this like tabletop plan? And this, as far as communication stuff goes, this is a very difficult like topic to figure out like how we can all get on the same page and if there's an incident or if that thing happens to be down, like so this is something you want to communicate beforehand. And also it can look incredibly different depending on the size of your org. If your org is 15 people, it's easy enough to get those 15 people in a single room and be like, we'll go into the boardroom and we'll talk about it. But if you're an org of like 500 to 1,000 people, that's a lot more different. And then your whole strategy changes from there. So just that tabletop discussion, think about these things before they happen, and then kind of get a plan going.
I think it's important, just as you're planning, you should have an alternative back channel for communication. We love single sign-on. That gets us all on the same page. But if your single sign-on is what popped, what is that out-of-band communication? It needs to be established ahead of time. Like, all right, we're in single messengers, a go-to for probably all of us here in the security industry, but I'm seeing a lot of pickup in end users using it as well, which is great. So having that pre-set up, like here's the group chat that's for the company when there's an emergency, we only put the primary people that need to be contacted in there, et cetera, and have that paper documented. The paper part's important because when the systems go down and a notice comes up, I've had people go, we have a DR plan. It's encrypted now with everything else. I've had that. And it's like, yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, that happened in the last company I worked with. We all had everything tucked behind IT glue. And it's like, well, what happens when the auth goes down for IT glue and all your process docs are locked behind that now?
Yeah. Paper copies of some of this is just part of the tabletopping.
I literally just had this thought. It might be a good idea to, as a security practitioner, keep an eye on these types of news articles. For example, Microsoft Teams. If your org is using Microsoft Teams, maybe run a test with your users, a phishing test with Microsoft Teams, and say, hey, this was a test. Here's what could have happened. This is why we're testing it. So that kind of like starts to get people thinking like, maybe I should be a little bit extra careful with links, not just in email, but in things like Teams. So maybe another phishing test for your org if you haven't done one in a while.
Good shout out. And fortunately, as we always say when we're talking about, user education, it does have to be two-pronged. It needs to be, the folks within an organization making sure that their teammates understand what to do, and also the developer making sure to build in safeguards to help mitigate those channels. So we didn't get time to get to another set of Microsoft stories today, but good news is there are updates coming to Teams in the coming months that should be proactive about helping to address some attacks like this in the future and handling of malicious links within Teams. So we love to see developer side planning to mitigate some of these user-focused attacks too.